From Creamer Media in Johannesburg, this is the Real Economy Report. Our top stories this week. We look at the training of the Army's engineers. We provide an update on the Sandton City shopping centre expansion. And we speak about why Africa is poor. The main training unit of South African Army Engineer Corps is the School of Engineers at Kroonstad in the Free State. New recruits are trained at the Junior Training Wing at Bosjesspruit, not far from the town. Keith Campbell recently visited the base.
At Bosjesspruit, I asked Junior Training Wing Commander Major Erica Westerath to explain the kind of training the recruits receive.
Firstly, when the members arrive, we start with basic military training, where we start to train them as to the basic skills in the military. For example, how to drill, how then to have military discipline, how to iron their uniform, where and when and how to perform when they are in uniform, as well as the R4 shooting rifle training, which they then have to complete successfully in order to pass their basic military training. Once they've completed the basic military training, we continue with the core training. We are the engineer corps, so we continue to train them as engineers. We give them the basic skills of the military engineers, which is more focused on the combat. We do mine warfare modules. We do the basic field engineering module. We do power tools, obstacle and field defense works module, water purification and water provision module, and then the watermanship module as well. Then finally we have the bridge building module. Once they have graduated from Bosjesspruit, they will then move to 2 Field Engineer Regiment in Bethlehem, where they will continue with combat readiness training. They will do an integrated exercise. They've done it previously at Luwatla. It's called exercise Soboka. And from there they will disperse then to be taken up into different engineer units. For example, the construction environment and then the terrain intelligence environment, and the remainder will stay at 2 Field to be combat engineers.
The new 1.77 billion rand first phase of the Sandton City shopping centre extension is beginning to change the city skyline. Dennis Ndaba spoke to Liberty Properties COO Morris Ndlodlo about the latest developments.
The Super Regional Shopping Centre's iconic expansion and refurbishment project, which involves interior refurbishments and a total of 30,000 square meters of new retail space, is set to further fortify the centre's standing as one of Africa's leading retail icons.
And part of phase one, it's the mall refurbishment. We started with the mall refurbishment before the start of the World Cup, and we've done probably around about 90% of the work. The balance of the work, so we had to stop during the World Cup, and we've already started with the balance of the work, and that will be finished in early New Year, around about February, March next year. Yes, that's for the refurbishment. And as part of the refurbishment, we've also done what we call level 6. That's the restaurant area, which is near Sandton Sun Hotel, which is part of the Sandton Sun Hotel, and it looks fantastic, and it's a world-class restaurant. We are on schedule to complete the extension, which will be finished in November 2011. On the rentals, I think we've managed to achieve more than what we expected in terms of the rentals. And again, that is driven by the demand, because when you look at the amount of demand we receive from the tenants, in fact, I would say for most of the boxes which we've identified, the sort of tenants we're going to be putting in, we got possibly 2 or 3 options per box. So that obviously commands better rentals, because you've got a demand, so you can sort of get better rentals on that. So on the income side, we are way above our expectations.
A new book entitled Why Africa is Poor explains the continent's economic problems and what Africans can do to improve their situation. Amy Witherden has the story.
Africa is poor because of bad policy choices and poor governance. Africans are also remarkably passive about their plight. But Brenthurst Foundation head Dr. Greg Mills explains that simple policy changes and a sense of responsibility can transform African economies.
I think it's very important that we understand the challenge and the opportunity that faces Africa. There's a huge challenge in terms of the young population that is coming through into our continent over the next 20 years. By 2025, Africa, sub-Saharan Africans will be 1/4 of the young people in the world, those under the age of 24. So it's a tremendous risk. Many of them will be in our cities, and if they're alienated, if they're jobless, they're likely to be a very great destabilizing force within our societies, and we see some of that both in South Africa and in other countries as well. But if their energies are to be harnessed, as they were in East Asia, and that demographic dividend to a large extent accounted for some of the growth in a number of Southeast Asian countries, if we can make full use of it, if we can put the right conditions in place, there's a tremendous opportunity coming for Africa just round the corner. But we have to act now in order to be able to reap the benefits later on.
That's Creamer Media's Real Economy Report. Join us again next week for more news and insight into South Africa's real economy.